Thought we'd maybe just talk about a few things related to both pre-security and uh, cybersecurity in general.
Sure. Yeah, let me start with the first question. Can you tell the viewers, Paul, why we started the company Pre-Security a couple years ago?
Yeah, it's kind of a fun thing, as you know. John and I have been working together for 30 something years now, and including this is the sixth company we've worked together. And over that career, from firewall vendors like uh, NetScreen and Fortinet, and companies like Zscaler and Cisco Systems, and then more recently at another startup called Stellar Cyber, we've seen a lot of different types of solutions in cybersecurity operations, and from EDRs and NDRs and all kinds of different detection technologies and firewall solutions and zero trust. And over that, we've had a lot of experience in the course in what works and what doesn't work in cybersecurity, where the pain points still exist. But as we discussed at the beginning, we really came down to a question of we don't want to just do another solution that provides 10% more, alerts. We wanted to really come up with something that could change the game for security operations, making them 10 times more effective. And the real question was, is it possible to use predictive analytics in cybersecurity? That's where it all started. So that's where we started. And I actually challenged John. I said, can we even do this? Does the technology exist to make this happen? And here we are, with the solution in the market that's been incredibly well received.
Hmm.
Actually, it's kind of an interesting story. John, why don't you tell a little bit about how we ended up with kind of an AI native vision and how we use things like LLMs in the solution?
Yeah, remember when you kind of asked me that question, and I love a challenge. So, when Paul asked me, hey, is it possible to even build something that can predict cyber attacks before they happen? I, of course, said yes, because I love a good challenge. But a couple years ago, when I took on the challenge, I started trying to build a solution based on an old way of thinking. And that old way of thinking was a way of thinking that I've used for many products that I've built over the years. You know, decades of doing the same old thing. And I started off by building a solution that could predict cyber attacks using machine learning. That was kind of the hot buzz 10 years ago. And it was a way that I built a product 10 years ago. So I started prototyping a way to predict things. I started doing it using legacy old school machine learning type of technology. And a couple months into my prototyping, I realized that was probably the wrong approach. So I quickly aborted that project and said machine learning is an old way of doing things. And right around that time, ChatGPT was starting to gain popularity, and I started looking into how they were doing things for a different use case and application, and they were using large language models. So I started prototyping large language models to figure out if there was a way to use that to predict cyber attacks, because large language models pretty much just do word prediction. Anytime you type something into ChatGPT, what's happening under the hood is actually predicting words. If you're ever on your cell phone and you're text messaging someone and it starts to autocomplete something like happy birthday to you, is what most people would predict the next word would be. I said, that's pretty interesting how word prediction can be done in that area. What if you could do word prediction with cyber security data? And that set me down a path of prototyping the use of large language models and using it to predict cyber attacks. So, question for you, Paul. Given that and other things, what makes our approach difficult for other competitors and such to try to do what we're doing?
Yeah, it's not even so much a question of it being difficult or not. It's more the vision and the overall benefits as you go through the cybersecurity workflow. If you look at a lot of the vendors that are in the market today, you have some people doing some really cool things in different parts of the SecOps workflow. Maybe it's in autonomous SOC or a Copilot or in the data pipeline, data engineering space. And what we found was that you accrue benefits as you move through the pipeline. Another way of saying this is if all you're doing is taking one of these new pieces and bolting it on to the existing kind of traditional tools and data that you have in your existing platform, you're going to be ending up with a less than ideal result. It's not dissimilar to having an old car and you go buy a brand new car stereo and you put the new car stereo in the car and you're driving down the highway, it sounds really good. You're listening to great music, but the car is just as likely to break down as it was before. It doesn't really fix the problem underneath. And in this age where you have, the bad guys also using AI, the traditional tools just aren't able to keep up with maintaining the quality of data, the quality of detections, and so forth that's needed to combat the adversary using AI. And so our model is basically fight AI with AI all the way through that SecOps workflow. Without taking that full AI native approach from end to end, we don't believe that you can accrue the benefits all the way through the system, and effectively you still end up driving the old car that's likely to break down on the highway. That's the way we kind of think about it at a vision level. While you were telling about our using the LLMs, I remember when we first started doing the converting, the idea of a log is a word in the word prediction thing. So talk about that kind of technology breakthrough in our patent work in that area of log to NLP and how that informs kind of the whole pipeline.
Yeah, great question. So you recall a moment ago I was saying that word prediction was kind of how large language models work, and we wanted to predict cyber attacks. So we came up with a way to convert security logs to natural language. Now, why convert a security log to natural language? That's so that you can use it in a large language model. So if you can take a security log and turn it into a word, then you can predict what the next word is likely to be. So if a security log is equal to a word, then what's the next log that's likely to occur? A log might be a brute force login attempt. The next log might be data exfiltration or what have you. So what we've done is created a technology we call log to NLP. We filed some patents on this to protect our idea. And it's a way of basically taking logs in from any data source. We don't need parsers also, by the way, as you recall in the demo, to get data into our system. So send any log to us, regardless of where it comes from. We're going to convert it to natural language, basically a sentence or a paragraph or a word. And then we're going to send it to a large language model, not just any large language model, our own proprietary large language model that we trained on a cybersecurity data set we call Cyber LLM. And we use the log version of the natural language version of the log against our large language model to make a prediction. It's very unique. It's very difficult to do. It's not as easy as it sounds. We have to use GPUs to process this stuff. And for those of you guys that have been following the GPU market, some of you may know some GPUs are hard to get, and some GPUs are very expensive. Some GPUs are delivered by NVIDIA, some GPUs are delivered by AMD, but it's very difficult to use these GPUs and bring them all together to deliver a comprehensive security framework.
Yep.
So next question I guess I have, Paul, is for you. Where do you see the future of SecOps?
Yeah, I mean, this is also kind of goes to the question we had in founding the company, right? Which was, we don't really believe that you can continue to proceed with the status quo of doing everything by hand, right? And so at the same time, you can't automate everything to the point where there's no people involved in the process either. And so where can you apply AI? Where are the pain points that you can address? And our vision was, and our belief is that it's impossible to proceed with the existing framework. You're either already broken and don't know it, or you know it, don't want to admit it, or you're looking, to what's next. And you can try and maybe do some things piecemeal, but our belief is that it's going to be, an end-to-end workflow that needs addressing. And the only way to really do that is using AI throughout the process. That's why we chose to just jump in from the beginning and be AI native from the jump. But that's the way I see SecOps going. There's lots of things in SecOps, pain points that rely on humans doing things that are not ideal for humans to be doing. Repetitive tasks that are prone to error, things like this that are easy for computers to do. And when we can automate those things or provide insights recommendations. It makes the analyst that much more effective, and that I believe is the future of SecOps. Of course, preventative as well, right? That's the real goal, is we do all of those things so that we can become preventative and predictive instead of reactive.
Yeah, and let me add a few other things to that. If I were to look into my crystal ball, I'd say that in the future, I see a future where everything is dynamic. Kind of adding to what you said, everything's dynamic. There's no need to have a manually created parser. It'll be dynamically created. There's no need to have a manually created security rule that looks for this and that to equal this detection. It'll be dynamically generated. I also see a future where these SOC workflows are a lot easier. And I also see a world where AI can be used to bridge the gap, the skill set gap for SOC analysts. It's very difficult to find trained and experienced SOC analysts that can understand all of this stuff. And AI is designed and being designed to help humans be more efficient at what they do. So last question, Paul, and I think we could probably wrap it up. Why don't you tell our viewers what you think the financial benefits of pre-security is?
Sure. There's a couple ways to think about that, I guess. One is like just what is the kind of pricing model and where does it fit into the budgets and things like that. We took a very deliberate approach in that to answer that question, which is, a lot of the existing tools use a despised licensing mechanism called ingestion-based pricing or storage-based pricing. And, companies end up paying a lot to bring data into the platform, and then they're required to have to pay to leave the data in the platform as needed. And so one of the things we've done is kind of separate the ingestion and the storage from the analytics. And so we free up the ability to store the data where and how you want, but also have a licensing model that's fixed based on IPs and assets instead of fluctuating with the number of logs that are being sent. And one of the reasons we did this very deliberately is not just to be different, but when we were trying to fix the problem around detections and having the right data to make detections, one of the things we saw was that because of those other licensing models, companies were actually inhibited or penalized for bringing logs into the platform. And so companies were bringing in minimal data sets into the security operation. And when you have less data, you have less context. When you have less context, you have worse security outcomes. You have higher false positives, things like that. And so we wanted to free up the ability to bring in as much data as possible, not penalize companies for doing so. We also, of course, address the technical problem by removing things like integrations and parsers. So now bring in all the data. We're not going to penalize you, and you get better security outcomes. And so that's one of the financial benefits of pre-security. The other one is, again, because of our holistic approach and the ability to address the entire workflow, and when we go in and replace an existing system, there's probably already a budget for the SIEM in the environment, and maybe for some of the detection tools and SOAR and different things. And by having all of those in one license in an economical package, we can frequently come in much below what the existing budgets were. And then on the flip side, if you want to keep your existing tool set and workflows, and you want to add all these AI bolt-ons, as I was talking about earlier, the new car stereo AI company and all these other things, you have to come up with additional budgets for each of those things. Whereas with pre-security, we're presenting everything into one license that comes in at a very economical price point. So we believe that there's financial benefits directly in terms of the budget, also in terms of how the operations works. And the reason we designed those things was actually not just to be different, but to enable better security outcomes. So that's how we see the benefits of the financial proposition as well.
Another question, Paul, why pre-security in the Japanese market and why now?
Yeah, let's think about this in kind of a two-part context. One, a lot of people have asked us just generically, you guys are very early startup. Why are you in all these different markets? Because pre-security is actually in many, many global markets throughout Southeast Asia, Europe, and in the US. A lot of times startups only go to market initially in the US or wherever their home base is, and then expand much later after several funding rounds and things like that. In our experience, John and I have both worked globally for many, many years. And in fact, in Japan for many years, going back at least 30 years. We were doing dial-up modems once upon a time here, and then routing, and then firewalls, with companies, like I said before, US Robotics, Cisco, NetScreen, Fortinet, many companies over many years into the Japanese market, including working with Jay's Communications in the past as well as current, and have always valued the Japanese market also for the kind of precision of implementations, and the feedback we get has always helped us to improve our products. And just as a philosophy, we go globally right out of the gate, and we feel that our product actually is very well suited for the Japanese market. The MSSP solutions providers have increasingly grown more important in the Japanese market, and we provide a very good solution for MSSPs to use. We have more multi-tenant capabilities and lots of neat features and capabilities for MSSPs, and also for what I would call kind of mid-size to large enterprise, where they have security operations and whatnot, but maybe don't have unlimited budgets and hundreds or thousands of people, to execute that. So they need help with automations and using AI to stay on top of all these things. They don't have 10 people to bring all the logs and everything into the environment. And so I think our solution actually fits the Japanese market very well in terms of bridging that gap between how do I maintain my security operations, but also incorporating new technologies. Anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think the food is something we both love here too. Yeah. All kidding aside, let's go to the next question. One last bonus question. It's kind of a fun question for you, Paul, and without disclosing who we were picking on. What's up with the free security logo?
Yeah, the logo is, of course, we have the symbol to indicate kind of before or less than detections in terms of coming before. But what it really has to do with is taking the traditional tools or models and flipping them on their heads and turning upside down the cybersecurity industry in terms of the way you think about it. Moving from a detect and response mode to a predictive mode, moving from traditional to generative, and turning everything upside down. So I'll leave it at that.
Cool. All right. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thank you.